At the intersection of the place you call home and the sport that makes you feel at home is precisely where you will find us. Lights Out. Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Network Television's African-centric Formula One show, Lights Out. I'm Irene Marie van der Walt, and I will be chatting to various motorsport personalities and bringing you an African perspective on the king of motorsport, Formula One. For today's interview, we chat with Derek Jacobs. He's a training and development officer for the FIA in Africa, as well as the Secretary General of the Namibia Motorsport Federation. Then we also have a short interview regarding young Namibian karter Cecil Koorts Jr., who will be headed to the UK for the Champions of the Future program soon. Then, in case you are new to Formula One or you just need to brush up on your Formula One knowledge ahead of the season starting in March, we will brush up your knowledge on the drivers' principles and give you the headlines from the Formula One shakedown. We'll be right back after this. The Secretary General of the Namibia Motorsport Federation and a training and development officer for the FIA in Africa. This man certainly is somebody who contributes very wisely to the conversation in motorsport. Derek Jacobs, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
So it's good to have you here on Lights Out, our very first episode. Tell us a little bit about the plans for the year from the NMSF.
Firstly, I must wish you well with your program. Congratulations, it's been a long road coming.
And no pun intended.
We're excited. We're excited to be part of this initiative as well. Yeah. So motorsport hasn't gotten off the ground yet. This year, everybody's still paying school fees and doing school sports, but we will be doing so soon. The federation's got quite a few things on its agenda this year. The one is the Sports Commission through the ministry is making huge changes. They're starting a website where all sport codes will register on, which will basically be a dashboard for sport in Namibia. So we need to make a few changes just to get in line with that, which will also help us with funding, which is something we so desperately need, especially for development. And our FIA 4-stroke kart cup is still on the cards. We haven't accessed the carts yet, but we're hoping to do so soon.
Yeah, and karting obviously sort of a vessel for development in motorsport, not just in Namibia but worldwide. Tell us a little bit about your karting and the youth in Namibia. How do you feel? Do you feel we have a strong youth in motorsport in Namibia?
Yes, we do. A few years ago we had the Girls on Track initiative, which the FIA assisted us with. It didn't go as we thought it would, because mommies and daddies were scared their little Sallys were going to get hurt, but when they saw it wasn't what they thought it was.
They were doing the ones doing the hurt.
Yeah, but then it was too late. The program came to an end. But we're going to try and revive that as well, because we had Tony Rust come out of that program, and she's racing, and as you know, she's taken on the guys head on and she's beaten them. So look, the youth, we need to get more of the youth, and I think with this program with the Sports Federation, where the schools are involved, we'll be able to cast our net wider and hopefully get more talent into karting in Namibia this year.
And then Derek, one question I'm always going to ask you: challenges. What are challenges in motorsport in Namibia, in Africa? Where can we improve? What do we need to do to improve?
The biggest challenge is finance. That's always been, for the last 9 years, that's been our challenge. And if it wasn't for the help of the FIA and with Motorcycling FIM to assist us with development, then it would have been a bigger challenge than it currently is. But the other one is the demographics of Namibia. It has a small population, but it's got a huge country, we are currently in 6 of the 14 regions, which I don't think is bad. It's about 49% of the country, We just need to extend it maybe a bit more. But I think with the schools coming on board through the sports ministry, sports commission, because the Minister of Sport and Youth would like to get everybody involved, so they'll give us a database which we can access. So, you know, like we did with the Girls on Track, we can do a karting development program again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then one big challenge in Africa, I think, is also, like you said, the geography, in a way that when kids go to Europe, it's a lot easier for them to take part in big karting championships, get used to having maybe even hundreds of karts on track instead of just 4 or 5. How do you think we can work to overcome that challenge here in Africa?
We need to build another track, especially in Namibia. There needs to be another track, because we have one in Windhoek and one at the coast, but we need to build something up north to harness the youth in that area, or even adults, as a matter of fact. But yes, you're right, the geography doesn't bode well for us because it's very far, you know. And even with the other championships, not only karting, the national championships, when you come to rallying and oval track racing, where competitors have to travel to the various circuits, it becomes challenging for them. But unfortunately, we can't assist with that. You know, we don't have the funds to assist them with that.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, before we let you go, for the young karting driver or the person aiming for, you know, Formula One, Lights Out is an African-centric Formula One show, but aiming internationally for motorsport, how do they do that? How do they make that jump across the pond?
Okay, so we've got one youngster from Namibia, Cecil Coates Jr., as you know. He's going to the karting future drivers in the UK. And yes, you hear me talking about money all the time. It's going to cost him a lot of money, but those are actually the steps you need to take, unfortunately. You can also do what some of the Namibians did. They went to South Africa. They got recognized and they were picked up in the Gazoo racing, Toyota Gazoo racing camp. They're going to do another season this year. And we also had 2 karters that are now in saloon cars, also in Gazoo racing team in the 86 GR Cup, which is good for Namibia. So unfortunately, you have to step out of Namibia. You know, the easiest place to access is South Africa. And then from there, you need to go to Europe, unfortunately, because that's where it all happens. But having said that also, I believe the Middle East and Malaysia, they coming online at the moment, not only with karting, with e-racing. They had a big championship recently. So, yeah, you know, it might be cheaper to go east than to go north, but we'll have to see.
Sorry, I know I did say that was the last question, but I do have a follow-up question. You said South Africa is kind of the access point for Africa. I know there's a lot of other countries, you know, far north in Africa, Central Africa. There are a couple of countries who have strong sort of motorsport backgrounds or strong foundations in motorsport. How do we turn those countries with strong foundations into access points? Okay,
so despite them having strong foundations, karting is one of the weak points. They don't really have karting. I know the Seychelles have a huge program. They have 150 karts, and they only just recently affiliated to the FIA. So the aim as part of the development task team for Africa is to get karting going in the countries that have motorsport history or heritage. So, yeah, but unfortunately, South Africa is the gateway, if you want to call it that. But not only as a gateway, but also the level of competition. South Africa's had quite a few top karters. They've had world champions. So if you want to measure yourself against the good ones, I wouldn't say maybe not the best. There are, but they're few and far between. You need to go to South Africa. You need to raise the level of the competition. You know, so and it's paid off. If you look at little Russell, they come back, they walk over everybody. You need to have that, but it also costs. You know, we don't know if the parents have the funding to do that.
Not in euros this time, at least, but it still costs.
Yeah, it still costs. Yes.
And then, Derek, before we let you go, I need you to look into the camera. I must congratulate you, I think, on accurately predicting Lando Norris's championship before the Formula One season started last year. You and I were very much on the same page there. So I'm going to ask you to do that again, and we're going to see if you can pull it off again this year. I'm going to need you to look at the camera
Well,
Tell me the constructors champion, and the
Um,
drivers champion.
okay, so if we look at shakedown, which I know there's a lot of showboating going on, I've got a very good feeling that Ferrari's rocking up at the party this year. I'm surprised by how well the Ford has gone. Aston Martin, they've done something different. There's a lot of old McLaren there with the little winglets and vanes and stuff. How the car's going to perform, I don't know. We know Adrian Newey is the best. So I've got a feeling McLaren's going to be in the party again this year. I would like Williams to come and join the party.
As they had in at Shakedowns.
I think they're making, there's a bit of momentum there.
They ended fifth. I went through the constructors standings again today,
Yes.
and I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh yeah, they ended fifth.
But history usually, and maybe I'm not going to be popular for what I'm going to say, history usually repeats itself, right? So when Hammy went to McLaren, in his second year he won the championship. When he went to Mercedes, he did the same. This is his second year in Ferrari. So let's see. But I think we're going to have a topsy-turvy championship. It's not that easy to predict. It's not that easy to predict.
You make it look easy, Derek.
I think after we've done the tests in Bahrain, we'll have a better idea of who's where. And but then also keeping in mind, like you told me, Ferrari's fastest time was a 1 lap.
It was a qualifying lap, and they're strong in qualifying laps. You know, previously, but all new regulations, so maybe they get it this time.
The drivers have a good feeling with the car this time. They reckon it's what they've been looking for, so hopefully they've listened. But then again, Red Bull, they're strong. They're quite strong, and I think Isaac is going to give Max a bit of uphill this year. So let's see.
Here's hoping. Let's see.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us, Derek.
That's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's so lovely to have you always. We could talk Formula One probably for hours. We do
We
this
could
all
do
the time.
motorsport.
I should come have a coffee and then
You know where my
talk for
office
hours.
is. There's coffee there.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us,
It's a
Derek.
pleasure.
That was Derek Jacobs, Training and Development Officer for the FIA in Africa and the Secretary General of the Namibia Motorsport Federation.
Now we chat to Cecil Quirks Jr., who will make his debut in the Champions of the Future Academy in the United Kingdom this year.
Joining us is the man of the moment, Cecil Quirks Jr. You are headed to the UK next year. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling quite excited because it's a new thing for me to do because I've been overseas to Italy before, but I've never been to the UK to drive there.
And you are a very big fan of a UK driver, Lewis Hamilton. Where did you start following Lewis Hamilton?
I started following Lewis Hamilton since 2020 because I like the Mercedes cars and he just, I don't know, but I just found him and then I started liking him.
And your dad tells me you are a collector of Lewis Hamilton items. And you also play the Formula One game a lot. How many hours a week?
Quite a few.
Quite a few. Okay, and tell me, you would like to drive in Formula One one day.
Yes.
Is there any particular team that you would like to drive?
Either Ferrari or Mercedes.
So the Lewis Hamilton team. What about McLaren then?
Yeah, McLaren as well.
You say if you get an opportunity, you'll take it. Okay, and tell us a little bit about the championships you've won before. Which one was your favorite?
My favorite one to win was probably in my Bambino rookie year because I just started karting and I already won the championship.
And do you have any favorite moments of racing in Namibia?
Yes, my favorite moment was last year. I think leg 4, last lap, last corner, I overtook Mandume Kayamu to get second place for the heat and then came out first for the day.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Formula One has once again enjoyed its favorite pastime, musical chairs, over the off-season. But this season was relatively more tame in comparison with other seasons. However, there were major changes in the driver market, as well as race engineers and, of course, engine suppliers with the new 2026 spec. Let's have a look at our driver market for 2026. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri remain at the Papaya outfit with McLaren, with Leonardo Fornaroli and Pato O'Ward as their reserve drivers. Mercedes retain George Russell and Kimi Antonelli with Frederick Vesti as their reserve driver. Max Verstappen and Isaac Hadjar driving for Red Bull. Isaac Hadjar, of course, making the step up from Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, with Yuki Tsunoda stepping down into his role as a reserve driver. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton remain with Ferrari, with Antonio Giovinazzi being a very experienced reserve driver for the Scuderia. Williams retain Alexander Albon and Carlos Sainz, who earned them 2 podiums last season. Luke Browning, the reserve driver for Williams. Visa Cash App Racing Bulls bringing up Arvid Lindblad alongside Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda to serve as their reserve driver as well. Aston Martin retain Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso, with Jack Crawford as their reserve driver. Esteban Ocon and Oliver Behrman remain at Haas, with Jack Doohan and Ryo Hirakawa as their reserve drivers. The new Audi team, newly renamed, they took over from the legendary Sauber team. They, however, retain Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto as their 2 drivers. They are yet to announce their reserve driver, although they have earlier in the week announced their F1 Academy driver. Alpine retain Pierre Gasly and Franco Colapinto, with Kushmaini and Paul Aron as the duo for their reserve drivers. Cadillac, the newbie on the grid, welcome Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, a wealth of experience they have there. Also experience in their reserve driver in Zhou Guanyu. Now we look at the changes in team principals as well as engine suppliers. McLaren is still using a Mercedes engine. Zach Brown is still in charge there. Red Bull changed to Red Bull Ford, with Laurent Mekies still their team principal, taking over, of course, from Christian Horner. Mercedes using their very own engine, with Toto Wolff remaining their team principal. Ferrari remain with their own engine and with Fred Vasseur. Williams still using Mercedes as their engine supplier. James Vowles still leading the pack there. Aston Martin now using a Honda engine. And of course, one the Formula One community is extremely excited about, Adrian Newey stepping in as their team principal. Racing Bulls also uses Ford, with Alan Permain in the seat for team principal. Ayao Komatsu remains the team principal at Haas, and Ferrari remain their engine supplier. Audi obviously using their own works engine, an Audi engine. Jonathan Wheatley carrying on from their Steak Sauber days. Alpine using a Mercedes engine, with Flavio Briatore temporarily filling in the spot as team principal. However, there are rumors that Christian Horner might be stepping into that spot soon. Cadillac using a Ferrari engine ahead of using their own spec engine from 2029, with Graham Loudon as their team principal. And then we have a look at race engineers for the various drivers. There have been some changes there as well. Lando Norris remains with Will Joseph. Oscar Piastri remaining with Tom Stallard. Brian Bozzi remains Charles Leclerc's race engineer, and Kimi Antonelli still with the legendary Bono. Carlos Sainz with Gaten Diego. Max Verstappen with what some have deemed his illegitimate wife, Gianpiero Lambiase, or GP. George Russell retains Marcus Dudley. Lewis Hamilton without a race engineer until testing starts. We are expecting that at the beginning of testing we will finally know who Lewis Hamilton's race engineer will be for 2026. James Irwin remains with Alexander Albon, and Andrew Vizard remains with Fernando Alonso. Nico Hülkenberg is still retaining Stephen Petrick. Oliver Behrman with Ronan O'Hare. Esteban Ocon with the very first female race engineer in Formula One, Laura Müller. And Gabriel Bortoleto with Jose Manuel Lopez. Isaac Hadjar with Richard Wood. Liam Lawson with Alexandre Iliopoulos. Lance Stroll with Gary Gannon. Pierre Gasly with Josh Beckett. Franco Colapinto also still without a race engineer. And Arvid Lindblad with Pierre Hamlin. And that is all you need to know about drivers, race engineers, as well as engine suppliers. We will be right back. Formula One got a first look at the 2026 spec cars in action during a private shakedown at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. This was a 5-day test for which Williams obviously is the big story. They unfortunately didn't make it and opted for virtual track testing, but there are many other headlines. Let's have a look. Williams, obviously, their production delays caused them to opt for virtual track testing. Instead, they did not make it to the Barcelona test at all, but indications are they will be present for testing come next week. Aston Martin also lost time in their new AMR due to a freight delay. Normally, these cars are sent by road when it is in Europe, but this time they opted for a flight and had a freight delay. Then McLaren and Ferrari also lost time on day one, opting to stay out for the first session, and then Mercedes were the first car on track in the new era, obviously the 2026 specs, long awaited, and they also logged the most laps at the shakedown. Then rainy conditions on day 2 were very important, gave the cars some run time with wet conditions and obviously the wet tires. Then having a look at the amount of laps, like I said, Mercedes logged the most laps with 504 laps over the 5 days. Ferrari second with 438 laps. Haas at 387 laps. Alpine at 343. Racing Bulls for 318, slightly more than their older sister team, Red Bull, 305 laps. McLaren, the current World Constructors Champions, defending their title this year, 285 laps. Audi, one of the newcomers, 240 laps. And Cadillac, the brand spanking new extra team added onto the grid this year, 165 laps. Aston Martin, the fewest amount of laps, like we said, freight delays for them there, 44 laps, and Williams with 0 laps on track. And that was your shakedown breakdown. We are due to start testing on Wednesday to Friday are the first public days of testing, which will obviously then also be broadcast. So we will have to see what the cars do out on track next week.
Life is unpredictable and one needs to be protected against any eventuality. Get Santam legal access from as little as $50 Namibian a month for when you find yourself in need of legal representation due to civil cases, criminal prosecution, and family matters such as divorce, child maintenance, and custody. It also covers labor disputes, disciplinary hearings, and unfair dismissal or retrenchment. With Santam Legal Access, you'll receive free legal advice on almost every legal aspect, whether the specific matter is covered by your policy or not. For true peace of mind and legal protection when you need it most, call us on 061 292 8000. Santam. This is freedom.
That brings us to the end of our very first episode of Lights Out. Thank you so much for joining us. Lights Out airs every single Friday evening at 5:30 on network television. That's DSTV 285 and GoTV 25 in Namibia, as well as oneup2.com should you prefer streaming. So from me, Irene Marie van der Walt, and the entire Lights Out team, until next time, drive it like you stole it.